Welcome. I bid you the Metal Roger shirt. There it is. You can get those at tpublic.com. Check Grab a Stack of Rock on tpublic.com if you want your own Metal Roger shirt. We're still waiting for Metal Roger himself.
What are we going to do with him?
He sent me a message about 5 minutes ago that said he's coming. So, John, while we're waiting, I may as well do this unboxing that I've been planning.
Yes.
As you know, a couple weeks ago, I did a show about the new Arkells album, and I was very excited about that. So I went on a bit of a spending spree, and I bought some vinyl.
Ooh.
For this band, I have all of their albums, but there's also EPs and singles and deluxe editions on vinyl that I am still hunting for. So I decided to pick one off the list here. Let's have a quick look at that. As I clumsily cut through it with my Swiss Army knife, horrifying vinyl fans everywhere. This is a 10-inch EP.
Ah, the big 10-inch record of your.
There you go.
Right.
Arkells, Joel Plaskett, and Zaki Ibrahim. I don't know him. I know Joel Plaskett. And they cover songs by these artists.
Ah.
So that is the catch. So there's one Arkells track on here that I do not have and have never heard. And, of course, I will hear the other two tracks as well. But
all right.
There it is. Polaris Music Prize Cover Sessions #2 is the name of this album. There are obviously more series of these with different covers. Okay, Roger is here.
Cool.
Let's bring him on. Maybe you want to show him that shirt.
Oh, yes.
Metal Roger, welcome to the stage. There he is.
You want to hear what I did? I forgot. Oh, my good God. It's upside down. That's worse than me not pressing enter.
Good morning, Ashley. And what's up with Ralph at the Rock Shop? Us handsome bastards.
Aw, thanks. I've been growing my beard for like a year and a half.
I thought you were gonna shave it once the Maple Leafs lost.
I figured that happens every fucking year. So
exactly.
There's your first F-bomb for the night.
Yeah, and that's fine. I don't mind. I try not to. I pay the courtesy of trying not to F-bomb when I'm on Rock Daydream Nation or when I'm on Grant's Rock Warehouse or my music corner. But on my show, anything goes. Ralph is advising Roger to shave that thing right off.
No.
I don't know.
My wife?
It may be.
Anyway, well, if you want to hear a funny story about last night.
Oh boy, this could get interesting.
No.
No. It's something about me and my wife. Okay, full disclosure. I'm an idiot, and when I first accepted this, I messaged Mike. I'm like, "Oh shit, I have a concert that night."
Yeah, he did.
It was last night, and some random dude kissed me.
All righty then. Well,
all right. So anyway, on with the show.
Roger
brought this topic up. He said, and he gave me a whole list of topics, and I think they might have been rejects from my music corner. I'm not sure.
No.
But he gave me a whole list of topics, and the one that jumped out at me was top 5 albums after a long break. So maybe the band broke up, or maybe they just took a whole bunch of time to make it. What was that?
Me laughing at the comment.
Oh gosh.
Oh Jesus. Scared me.
This show has gone off the rails, and I had nothing to do with
I
it.
thought this was an intriguing subject, and I think that with that in mind, let's get the show on the road. Let's do our top 5. Mr. Klauser is first in line here.
Okay.
So why don't you go first? Now, I just laid down some very loose ground rules, which, as I said, it should be at least 5 years, but all of mine are well over 5.
Oh yeah. I think mine's the same way. There's a few that have some double digits going on here. So the first one I'm going to talk about, I actually wound up having about 10. So a lot of them though are pretty high profile, and I'm like, nah, I don't want to talk about a high profile band. So the first one I'm going to talk about is this little known band out of the tri-state area, out of New York and Jersey. And they had the chance to release an album on Epic and CBS Records back in August of 1991. The band consists of Jack Moorer on guitar, Kevin Toshuin, I think is how he pronounces his last name, on bass, Tom DeFaria on drums, and this guy named Steve Augeri on vocals.
Ha!
I'm talking about Tall Stories. And that was their first album that they came out with. It was kind of a one and done for a little while, at least we thought. It was 1991, so of course the climate was probably not the right time for something like AOR, melodic hard rock, AOR type of stuff. However, after Jerry kind of walks away from Journey or dismissed from Journey, depending on what you listen to, I guess, the guys got back together again. And this was released, I believe, in 2009, called Skyscraper. This is the only other album the band has done. This is on Frontiers Records, and this is a really good album. This is a little heavier than the debut. I think it's a very strong album. Tomorrow is the song that leads off. Very driving track. Pictures of Summer is a nice kind of like acoustic ballady, but it drives toward the end of the song. You Shall Be Free is another acoustic ballad. Stay is a great song. River Rise. This is just a great album. I love both. I love this band so much. The reason I even heard about them in the first place was I was supposed to go. I had this impression that I was going to go see Mr. Big up in Baltimore at a place called Hammerjacks. And yeah, dummy me didn't know that you had to buy tickets ahead of time, thinking Hammerjacks is just some kind of a bar. You pay like a cover fee to get in, and hopefully you get in, right? Yeah, no, that's not exactly how that works. But then again, 1992 me was not that bright on all these kind of things. It's pre-internet, so how was I supposed to know, right? Anyway, I would probably agree with that, Ashley, because I did see David Lee Roth on that Skyscraper tour. But anyway, Tall Stories was opening up that show. So on the way up, I picked this up and listened to it. Fell in love with it. The self-title is probably one of my top 15 albums of all time. I love this album that much. And like I said, Skyscraper is no different. So there you go. There's my long entry in the beginning.
We're off to a great start. 2 follow-up questions. Just do the math for me real quick. What's the year gap between those 2 records?
So 1991.
Okay.
Let's see. 2009. So
18 years.
About 18 years.
Cool. And follow-up question: does the second album have the exact same lineup, or was there a change? Or
it was, with the exception of the drummer. The drummer was there for like the demo tracks and was very much behind the scenes. But there's a couple of other drummers that play a couple different tracks, like Bobby Rodinelli plays on a track or two and stuff like that. So there's you have a couple of different people there, but yeah, he was very much involved with the conception of the songs and the music.
And we'll just give a quick shout out: Bobby Rondinelli, Anno Domine, the Black Sabbath box set, Tony Martin years. He plays on Cross Purposes and does a bang up job. Pete Jones, the drummer, blew up on stage. I don't think he means Spinal Tap style. I think,
and I hope it's not the Tall Stories guy, because I did see a picture of him recently, so he's good.
All right, there we go. We're off to a start. 18-year gap. Metal Roger. I know you don't have physical product, but what can you tell us about your number 5 pick?
Well, I picked industrial. I can't speak. I'm completely sober. It's just my normal.
That's fine. You've got a cat. You've got a cat, man.
Yeah, I got a cat. Anyway, I picked Stabbing Westward.
Oh, interesting.
There's a underrated gem.
I remember that album from the mid to late 90s. Yeah,
exactly. And it took them 20 years to release this album called Chasing Ghosts.
Chasing Ghosts.
Now, I think the singer's just great.
I
But-
vaguely remember it being very accessible for industrial music. You know, it was like it had the heaviness and the riffs and that kind of thing.
Well, back in the day, Sometimes It Hurts was on Much Music quite a bit, and
Yeah.
that's how I discovered them.
Hey,
And
Holin's in the house. Thanks for watching, Holin.
anyway, I Am Nothing, great track, great opener, and their first single, which was Ghost, literally picked up off right where they stopped 20 years ago for whatever reason.
Ooh, Ronnie Robson in the house. Need to see the cat. Okay, so Roger, that's a request. We need to see more of the cat. And for those keeping score at home, Metal Roger is currently in the lead with a 20-year gap between albums. So that's pretty impressive. We're off to a start that's going to be tough to beat. There is the cat's backside for Ronnie Robson. Thank you, Ronnie. Hollywood Monsters, brilliant album that Ronnie plays on. Okay, so guys, I decided to be a bit of a cheat, and I decided to be a bit of a Harrison in honor of my my comrade, my co-captain. And I said, screw it. I couldn't choose a number 5, so I declared it a tie, and I'm going to do 2 because it's my show. First up, and let me just get my notes. First up, after an 11-year gap, we have Kiss Sonic Boom, 2009, following 1998's Psycho Circus. Now, I got to tell you why I picked this, not only because Kiss is my all-time favorite band, obviously, but when Psycho Circus came out, I was disappointed in it. I don't know if you two guys are as familiar with that album, but it was the original lineup, but it had a lot of ghost musicians on it. Bruce Kulick played some guitar. Tommy Thayer played guitar. Kevin Valentine played drums. There was a lot of outside songwriting going on, and I was very dissatisfied with that album. And I remember sitting there in the shower thinking to myself, man, if I could only talk to Kiss, I would tell them 3 things. As I'm washing my hair in the shower, I'm saying, guys, stop using outside songwriters. Just write songs with the basic members of Kiss. Just the members, nothing else. 2, have the members play on the album. No outside musicians, just the 4 guys. Have them play the instruments they normally play. Bass, guitar, drums. And 3rd, no ballads. And guess what? Kiss somehow heard me. And they self-produced this, which was another smart idea. Actually, Paul Stanley produced it. And as an added bonus, Walmart gave us a Japanese, that was a Japanese album that they did of re-recordings of the greatest hits. I can't pronounce the name. Harrison would be able to pronounce the name for you. But they gave it to you as a bonus disc here, and then there's a bonus live DVD, live in Buenos Aires as well. Brilliant value. Also with a bonus DVD, in 2012 came this album, which was a 14-year gap from Van Halen 3, but an 8-year gap from Best of Both Worlds in 2004, if you want to count that, which I don't. I'm going with the Van Halen 3 number because I'm going by studio albums, not greatest hits with extra songs. I like this album. This is largely made up of re-recordings of old demos that Van Halen did back in the 70s with some new material as well. David Lee Roth wrote a lot of new lyrics with the exception of She's the Woman, which is pretty much identical to the original. This is the first and only studio album with Wolfgang Van Halen on bass. I'm a booster. Yeah, Roth, he can't sing the way he used to. We all know that. Either like it or you don't. I think it's a great album, and this one came with a bonus acoustic DVD. Different kind of Truth Van Halen. That's my tie for number 5 because I'm the boss. I'm the star. I am the El Capitano. Well, the cat is the star, to be honest, but I'm El Capitano, and that's my number 5, a tie.
Well, I'm glad you realized my cat is the star.
Of course.
Okay, so hang on. We have some comments with Jim Crean, Vinny Appice, Steph Hond. Oh, okay, that's a Hollywood Monsters. Yes, thank you. I'm a big booster. I'm a big fan of Jim Crean and Steph Hond. They are both incredible performers. Psycho Circus is one of my least favorite Kiss albums. Exactly, Ashley, on the nose. What laws are being broken here?
If we told you, Grant, we'd have to kill you.
Luke
and
Carter,
we really don't want to do that.
are you talking about Psycho Circus? That you liked Psycho Circus? Different kind of truth rocks. I don't understand why this wasn't promoted heavily, I think is what Ashley means. And it's not on streaming services, as Wolfgang has been complaining. I'd pick Falling Off the Sky by the DBs. It came out in 2012 after a 25-year break, and it's every bit as good as the original 4-album run. I respect you picking 2 like Harrison. In honor of my comrade, my co-captain Harrison. Okay, round 2. Johnny Klauser, what do you got?
All right, so this next band, this one just came to me earlier today, so I'm like, wow, okay, got to talk about these guys. So early '90s, we have this gentleman named Christopher Taylor, and he puts together a little band in San Antonio, Texas, called Love Coma.
Okay.
Now, very little known band. They were on small.
Can you hold it up one more time? There we go.
They were on small labels. This was the debut album called Soul Rash. This has a track on it called Hearts Wide Open, which is probably in my top 20 songs of all time. I just absolutely love how it grooves and everything. The guitar player on this is a guy named Matt Slocum, who would go on to play in this little band called Sixpence None the Richer. This was their first album. This was 1992. They would follow up with a couple of lineup changes. 1995 with this album, which is called Language of Fools. You get Chris Taylor doing the Peter Gabriel look here with the mask. And then they would break up. The label would kind of go under that they were on. Chris Taylor would then eventually go on to do solo material. There's one of his albums here called Down Goes the Day. He decides to get the guys back together in Love Coma. And in 2020, so this would be about 25 years from Language of Fools to just this self-titled. And here, let me also show off this beautiful vinyl of it as well. Wonderful album. Absolutely adore this. Grant and I and Ryan Gavalier and Peter Kerr and Todd Evans did a show on this. This was like one of my earliest panel shows I ever did, where I introduced these guys to this album, and it was a fun time. I never can not talk enough about Love Coma. These guys kind of have there's a mix of U2, The Cars, Bob Dylan, Beatles, the 77s, Lost Dogs, Michael Rowe kind of material. Chris Taylor is a prolific writer in the San Antonio area. He's done a lot of material on that you can find on Bandcamp, gigs around a lot. But it's always nice when he can get the guys together to do some Love Coma. Standout tracks on this one. Into Me You See is a great track. How Long, Burn the Night Away, Under My Shadow. I mean, this whole album is just fantastic. So Love Coma.
Wow, I've just been educated. And you mentioned a lot of people that we both know that I respect, and I don't know this band at all. So I guess I should start tuning in because I know all those guys.
Yeah.
Okay, so hang on. We have, yes, Ralph. Hope you're doing well. Yes, Ronnie and Ralph, they know each other. Okay, Metal Roger, your number 4 pick.
You know, it's still not metal, but I'm picking Tool. And we all know the album. I cannot pronounce it for crap, so I'm not even going to try it. Actually, I'll try it. Fear Inoculum. Oh, God.
Fear Inoculum.
Oh, there we go. See, this is why I work at a factory, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, God. Anyway, I don't need to really blab about this for a long time because everyone knows it's great. Tool, They're not musicians. They're artists. They use their instruments as paintbrushes. Maynard is an instrument himself.
Yeah.
We all know how great. What is it? Oh, God. The second track. The track that Portnoy tried to play, and it took him 6 hours to figure it out.
Yes, that was on social media a couple of weeks ago. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't remember the name of the track, but yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
It's like pneumonia or no, this one. See? Okay.
Numa,
Props,
Numa.
kinda.
Numa.
Pneuma. See, this is why I again work at a factory. I can't speak. Anyway,
Well, that's all fine. These are Tool song titles. They're never going to show up on a final exam anywhere.
oh thank God. Anyway, there we go.
Excellent. So what's the year gappage between that and the previous album?
Somehow 13 years, and it felt a lot longer than that.
Yeah, it did actually. It did feel a lot longer.
Felt like 20. And I swear this is like the first album that really truly reached the hype of like
Yeah,
Chinese democracy, we'll say.
I understand what you mean. Lived up to the hype.
Yeah.
Okay, my number 4, 18-year gap after 1997's Album of the Year comes 2015's Sol Invictus. Now, this is the Japanese import, and I'll show you the Obi strip here. There we go. Comes with a bonus track, which is a remix of Mother, which was a great song, by the way. After a lot of acrimony and thinking that this was one of those bands that would never get back together in the late 2000s, first decade, they did reunite and they toured and they were great. And they reunited with the same lineup that was on the prior album of the year, which featured, oh goodness gracious, I'm having a brain fart, on guitar. Anyway,
Shit, I should know that too because
same lineup. John Hudson on guitar. Same lineup. So I always like it when a band reunites either with a classic lineup or the previous lineup. I like that continuity. Some really amazing songs on here, but what really surprised me was how low key it is. Like in 1995, Faith No More did King for a Day, Fool for a Lifetime, and it was a banging album all the way through. They really dropped a lot of the keyboards. Roddy Bottum was playing guitar instead of keyboard on a lot of stuff. I have Holland's support on this pick, but this is really low key, and Mike Patton is using the lower register of his voice a lot more. He's not doing a lot of the same kind of classic singing that he did on The Real Thing, you know. But there's some great songs on here, including Sunny Side Up, one of my favorites. Cone of Shame is great with a lot of great screaming. Matador, great song. But I got to go with Mother Effer with Roddy Bottum doing the verses. It's just a great song, and the chorus is fabulous. Faith No More arguably were one of those bands that maybe should never have gotten back together. You know, if they couldn't live up to the legacy, if they couldn't live up to what they had done before, you shouldn't get back together. Well, they somehow did by kind of sidestepping the legacy and doing something completely different. You know, this isn't like any other Faith No More album, and it's yet brilliant like any Faith No More album. There's a lot of their records that I would give a 5 out of 5 star rating. I would do that for King for a Day, Angel Dust, Real Thing, and Introduce Yourself. This is close. This is about a 4.5 out of 5 star album. So that's my number 4, Faith No More, Sol Invictus. And again, that is a 18-year gap.
And I didn't pick that because I knew you would, and you are able to pronounce the album title.
Now, I am curious how you knew I was going to pick that.
Because I knew you're a Faith No More fan. And, well, yeah.
There you go. I appreciate that you knew that about me and that you gave me that
I pay
honor of
well, that's
I'm
it.
loudmouth, but I pay attention.
There you go.
It's it.
Okay, well, Johnny Metal, this is number 3 now. Are you going to
3?
throw another band
Right.
at me? I don't know.
Yeah, well, I might. Now my year difference with this one is not going to be quite as much as the the other two, but there's still a sizable gap, and I do very much enjoy this album. So this band started in the mid 90s, early to mid 90s. a Norwegian Christian progressive death metal band. I'm talking about a band called Extol. This is their debut here called Burial. This actually came out in 1999, so a little later than I thought. This would be their second album here. Let's see, called Undeceived, which is a dark and brooding and brutally heavy, just intricate album of amazing riffs and stuff. Just solid album, very dark vocally. They would eventually come out more thrashy with this album here called Synergy. This was 2003. Then after a couple of lineup changes in 2005, they come out with this album called The Blueprint Dives. Very melodic, proggy, a little more clean vocal instead of the harsh, dark Cookie Monster vocal. But there was just so much other stuff going on here. I don't even know if I could pronounce some of or even think of some of the influence. But this, they landed on tours with Mastodon and Opeth and a couple of other bands. So they got noticed pretty well. And then they just kind of disappeared. A couple of the members started doing some other band projects. And they just kind of faded off into obscurity. And then all of a sudden, in 2012, they come out with this documentary called Extol of Light and Shade. And so this is just it's a documentary on the band, basically from their beginning. And it leads up to 2013's release of this. This is their self-titled album, just simply called Extol. This album essentially combines a lot of the different influences. Very cool, Ronnie. I haven't watched it in a while myself. Yes, it's a very cool documentary. I very much enjoy it. This album combines a lot of the different styles that they kind of got into. There's a lot of harsh vocals. There's a lot of that heavy stuff that was on the Undeceived, but then there's a lot of melodic stuff. There's a lot of thrashy stuff. All in all, a wonderful band. They were supposed to come down here and play. They reunited. They were going to play at Furnace Fest, which is a big kind of hardcore festival. And like 2 or 3 days before the fest came, they announced that unfortunately they weren't able to work out their visas and they had to pull out of the gig. So did not get to see him because I was going to that and I did not get to see him. And I was really sad about that, as were a lot of people. But anyway, got to see them in 2006 and just or 2005 actually, great show. So glad I got to at least see them once. Been a favorite band of mine. It was wonderful spinning this album again. It's been a while since I've listened to it. So that's only about an 8-year difference. So not as big a difference as Love Coma, but still a sizable difference. But it's an album that I absolutely adore.
Okay, so in sum, we have an 8-year gap, multiple genres of metal being explored, and a few lineup changes.
Yes, I'll tell you what. David Husnick, the drummer. I think in a review for Blueprint Dives, they were like, they're putting him in like Portnoy and Peart territory, if that says anything. And I'm sure he's probably in the drummer of Tool's territory too, because he's a beast. He's an absolute beast on drums. So I would highly recommend that.
I'm just going to address some comments here. So I am honored to be watched after Ryan Roxy from Alice Cooper's band.
Shanti's a good friend. Christmas tree.
Excellent. Rainbow had a bit of a disappointment there, Ashley. I agree, which is why it's, spoiler alert, not on my list. Hello, Nathan. Thank you for tuning in tonight. And Ronnie, thank you as well. That's really cool that you saw that documentary. And Ashley, yes, 13. Again, I was going to bring up my big box set version of Black Sabbath 13, which I have. Spoiler alert, didn't make my list. Metal Roger, you're number 3.
And my first metal pick is the mighty Halloween.
Nice.
You mean Halloween?
Yep. I will take any time to mention how much I love them. And is there any this is they have like the craziest situation. And I said to Mike I would ask a question and
Okay.
he's gonna be mad, but I don't care. I'm
Fine.
kidding. I'm kidding.
Ask your question.
Anyway, is there any band with the original singer and then the man that replaced him on the same album?
Yes. In a sense, this lineup isn't together anymore. As far as I know, I don't know what they're doing for their next album, their final album. It's Savatage. Their lead singer, John Oliva, left the band after Streets of Rock Opera. He personally handpicked his own replacement, a guy by the name of Zach Stevens, trained him, wrote the songs, wrote the lyrics, produced the album or co-produced the album, and then later on actually returned to the band in a dual vocalist format with Zach Stevens handling some of the lead vocals and John Oliva handling the heavier material. So there is a good example there. Okay, so yes, Christmas Tree, John, your actual there you go. Alice Cooper and Kiss. That's a good thing to be introduced to. Gotta love the Ween. Not a big fan of covers albums, but Halloween's Metal Jukebox is great. And there we go. Okay, so sorry. I think we interrupted you as you were talking.
Oh, I was just gonna say that like the way they developed the band is perfect. They switch verses, like they not switch, share verses. Seeing it live's like incredible. But
so what are the two albums and what's the gappage?
It's just 6 years.
6 years, that counts.
But it's been, I think it was like, must have been 20 years since the original singer was.
Yeah, Michael Kiske. Yeah.
Yeah. And like, I just like mentioning Kai is probably the most underrated guitarist there is.
He is extremely underrated. But sorry, what were the album titles?
Halloween's just self-titled, and then their other album is one sec. I have this written down. It just disappeared on me. My God-given right. I actually have barely listened to that album, but their latest one's great.
Okay. Awesome. I will have to start listening to more Halloween, obviously.
Me too.
Up in the comments. My number 3. Let me get my notes up here. This is I'm gonna see if anyone can guess this one. It's a 9-year gap.
Backstreet Boys.
It's not Backstreet Boys. It's classic rock. It's a 9-year gap. An album that came out in 1984. Now, there's not, that's very early for a band to have like a breakup and a reunion. Well, most bands kind of did the breakup and reunion a lot later than 1984. But this some related artists have come up in the comments here. But when I first heard this opening track from this album, I think John just caught a glimpse of it. The haunting organ of John Lord.
Knocking at your back door.
First Deep Purple song I ever heard in my life. And that organ's so unique. And there it is. The reunion of the classic Mark II lineup. Roger Glover on bass. Richie, the Man in Black, Blackmore on lead guitar. Ian Gillan on lead vocals. John Lord and Ian Pace, who at that point in their career are the only 2 Deep Purple members who had played on every album. And today that remains Ian Pace, the only Deep Purple member who's been in the band from start to finish, no gap. They broke up in 1975 after Come Taste the Band, which didn't have Blackmore, had Tommy Bolin on guitar. And Richie went on to great success with Rainbow, who've come up in the comments here. Ian Gillan went to Gillan. There was Ashton Lord Pace. There was a whole bunch of stuff. There was Whitesnake. There were a lot of bands. But in 84, Ian Gillan was free from Black Sabbath and returned to Deep Purple with Richie Blackmore, and they made one brilliant album. Produced by Roger Glover. 2 singles, Knocking at Your Back Door and Perfect Strangers itself. Every track is brilliant. This is a nice old printing of the CD. People
Oh,
like
yeah.
these old vintage things. I don't know. What can you say about Perfect Strangers? It's got the riffiness of Deep Purple. It has a little bit of that progressive edge. It was more modern for the 80s, but it didn't really sound like an 80s album.
Mm-mm.
Perfect Strangers, my number 3. We'll get caught up in the comments here. Deep Purple Mark II, you are correct, sir. I see. He was guessing along as I was leading. And thank you, Ronnie. Appreciate that. I knew Ashley because we were watching together Rock Daydream Nation when we were taking apart Stormbringer. So I knew Ashley would agree with me here. Tons of airplay too. Yeah. In '84 it was a big deal. And Henry has joined the chat. Thank you for tuning
Hey,
in.
Henry.
Hi, Henry.
Okay, we're into the top 2. Johnny Klauser,
Okay.
you're number 2.
All right. This is so this band has only really released maybe 4 proper studio albums since 1983. So there's a lot of gap in between for this band.
Yes.
This is a band that was formed in 1980 by a guitar player by the name of Bill Samus and a drummer by the name of Mark Zonder. You might know him.
I recognize that name.
You might know him. He would go on to be in Fate's Warning for a number of albums, about 6 albums, I think. But anyway, this album was one of the very first releases on Metal Blade Records as a 6-song EP. I wish I had an original Metal Blade version of it, but I do not. And I'm talking about Warlord and the album and the EP called Deliver Us. Now, this was a 1983 release. Originally had 6 songs. Some versions have 7. They would eventually come out with what's called a kind of a live concert thing here. And the Cans of Destruction have begun. So this is kind of there was like even a videotape of this that you could get, which is just a performance in like an empty rehearsal space. Never got to gig. Band would break up. Mark would kind of go off and join other bands. He would get into Fate's Warning. Bill Samus went off to Florida, and he eventually became a professor at Trinity College. And he would do these little acoustic things, kind of hard rock, but with a lot of programming called Lordian Guard. And well, Ashley, I'm going to keep on going here because I'm going to give you all the information here. So 2002. So this is 21 years since Deliver Us. They would come out with, that's not the right one. They come out with this album, Rising Out of the Ashes. And
Love
so
that
what
logo, that W logo is
yes, this W logo is amazing. I absolutely adore it. This album is basically some of the Lordian Guard songs done Warlord style. So they really amped up the heaviness on this. Joachim Kams of Hammerfall is on vocals for this album because Hammerfall was a huge Warlord fan. They do on their first album, they covered the Warlord song "Child of the Damned" off the Deliver Us album, which is an amazing track. They would play Wacken. First time they actually played shows. So then they go dormant again until 2013. So we have that's another 11 years.
Yes.
And now they come out with this album called The Holy Empire. Again, this is a lot of songs that Bill had written and was just basically trying to wrap up and finish up. Basically, these guys are kind of like epic metal would be the best way I can describe them. A lot of new album influences, but they sound like their own kind of thing. Big in Europe, especially Greece. This is a wonderful, wonderful album. I absolutely adored it when it came out. They would go on to play some European shows like Keep It True. They played a lot in Greece. They were huge in Greece. And then after about 2014, 2015, Bill he had a lot of health issues, which unfortunately in 2021, we lost Bill Samus, but thanks to Giles Lavery and Mark Zonder, they were basically cured the vault and they were able to piece together some stuff that that Bill had written, and just recently came out with this album here called Free Spirit Soar. And so this was 2020, 2014. So another 11 years. So I kind of, if you thought your Thai thing was breaking the rules, this band breaks all the rules, because there's a long gap between every album. Wonderful album. Absolutely adore this new album. I've been trying to listen to it as much as I can. Absolute banger of an album, banger of a band. And I just love, they were one of the bands from those early Metal Blade days that I just clung to and really enjoyed. And so yeah, here it is 40 years later, and I'm still listening to Warlord and Deliver Us and stuff like that. So
wonderful. So in sum, Mark Zonder, lots of gaps between records, so basically too many to worry about, and a really damn kick-ass logo and some ass kicking.
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
Okay, so again, you're introducing me to music that I'm going to need to be checking out. Metal Roger, your number 2 pick.
Well, seeing as you did something to honor Harrison, so will I. It wouldn't be a show without Harrison mentioning Blaze Bailey at least 20 times. So I'm choosing the band that I mention every freaking show I'm on, Metallica. We all knew this was coming.
We did talk about this. Yes, we did talk about this.
Technically, it's a 5-year gap, but Saint Anger isn't an album. So it's an 11-year gap. Yep, I just said that.
That's a Lulu of a comment if I ever heard one.
Klauser, don't encourage him. Klauser's going to get a timeout for if he encourages Roger again.
Hey. At least Lulu had real drumming in it, not something that sounded like I'm going to bash some pots and pans. But there is a reason why I want to talk about this. Death Magnetic, I believe, is their most forgotten album because it's sandwiched in between that piece of crap Saint Anger and that art piece that some people think is music, Lulu.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's never talked about.
I wish I had. I wish I thought of this. I kind of had an inkling you were going to pick Death Magnetic from our talk earlier this week. And if I'd known that, I would have brought I have the coffin box of Death Magnetic. So next time I'll have to show that off when I'm at home.
Hey, yeah, I kind of want that.
It's cool. It's got the bonus CD of demo versions of all the songs on Death Magnetic.
Huh.
Yeah.
But I am a big fan of Robert, as you can tell.
No, can't tell at all.
No. I think he's the best musician in the band. That might be crazy. I
think he's one of the most likable. He seems the most down to earth. And, for all its flaws, Saint Anger did come with that movie that I find still very interesting and entertaining to watch, as much of a train wreck as it is. But one of the things you get out of that movie is how humble Robert is. Like that part where they say, no, screw it. We're making him a full 1/4 voting member of Metallica, and we'd like to give you $1 million for signing your contract. And you just see his face, and it's like, really? $1 million, and it just makes you like the guy. It makes you like Robert. He's like somebody you'd want to just hang out with.
I agree.
Yeah. Good pick, Roger.
Yeah.
So
thank you.
For those who missed it with all the jibber jabber, that was Death Magnetic by Metallica. My number 2.
I would just like to say it completely erases pretty much Saint Anger.
It does.
Everyone whines about, I would thrash you, Metallica. It kind of is what they're asking for.
Yeah,
I think it is.
And then think
of the voice you did. That was funny.
Then think of the time between Death Magnetic and Hardwired.
Yeah, there's another big gap there too. But they toured.
They toured.
Anyways, my number 2. There's a 15-year gap. 2018. to 2003. Or you could go with a 13-year gap, depending on what you count as a studio album. I'm talking about a little band that today has 2 Canadian members out of the 7 in this band. Any guesses? 2 Canadian members, lead singer and brand new bass player, both Canadian. Brothers. Any guesses? Metal Roger? No? I'm talking about Styx. Lead vocalist Lawrence Gowan and his brother, now Terry Gowan, is in the band.
Should I call my wife down? Because my wife loves Styx.
No.
No.
This is a brilliant album.
We love you, Liz.
Yes, we do, but I want to get the show moving. This is a brilliant album. It's a concept album about a mission to Mars. It's called The Mission. And I have the version with the bonus DVD, which is the 5.1 mix of the album, which I've only played once, unfortunately. But I am a big Styx fan, as viewers here know. I love The Mission. I also love Crash of the Crown. In fact, I prefer Crash of the Crown to The Mission, but there wasn't a huge gap between those 2 records. There was between The Mission and Cyclorama, which came out in 2003. Or if you want to include the covers album Big Bang Theory, that came out in 2005. I don't have Big Bang Theory. And I also don't have Cyclorama. I don't like either of those 2 records very much, but I love this. This is so good. It's largely Tommy Shaw driving the ship at this point. Lawrence Gowan has a few writing credits as well. Ricky Phillips was the bass player. We also have the original bass player himself. Chuck Panozzo. Chuck Panozzo. Yeah, on bass on a couple of tracks. He always does like a token appearance on 1 or 2 tracks. And of course, original founding member James J.Y. Young on guitar and vocals. He sings lead vocals on a particularly memorable song called Welcome to the Big Show, which is about the launch. The Big Show is the launch. What else do I want to say about this album? New member of the band. They added a 7th member in Will Evankovich, who is still in Styx today. He was kind of a buddy of Tommy's, and he adds guitar and vocals. So Styx is a 7-piece band now. They were originally a 5-piece when they started out in Chicago. Styx is special to me because Kilroy Was Here was my first rock album that I ever owned in my life. And I kind of dropped out of liking Styx for a long time, kind of rediscovered them in the early 2000s when they did a double best of called Come Sail Away. Gowan joined the band, which caught my attention, being Canadian myself, and the rest is history. I am now an official Styx diehard, and this is an absolutely brilliant album after a tremendously long gap. Strongly recommend anybody who's ever liked Styx or Gowan to check out The Mission. End rant. And we have
I
comments.
say how much I love Styx?
Yeah.
I love Styx so much. I want to buy tickets and take my wife, and my wife hates Styx. Like, hates them.
My wife used to hate Styx. She doesn't anymore. Trickster had a 16-year gap with the release of New Order Machine. I forgot about that one. Not so familiar. Oh, Henry, we will talk, okay? We will talk. Do you know he does know Gowan? Okay, well then thanks to Kids in the Hall. Okay, we really do need to talk. I didn't know there was a connection between Gowan and Kids in the Hall. Kids in the Hall was a sketch comedy series that came out in Canada in the 90s. Steelheart had a 12-year gap with the release of Good to Be Alive. Interesting. All interesting. I'm fascinated because I know Johnny Metal, for his number 1 pick, he's going to pick something. I'll be like, well, what the fuck is that?
Oh, no, you will.
Okay. Go ahead, Johnny Metal. Yeah. Without further ado, number 1.
Now, question: do we want to hit any honorable mentions, or do we want to tackle those?
Let's do those after
time. Do those after. All right. No, this will not be a surprise to anybody that I would pick this band, because there was a 6-year gap between their 2009 album and a 2015 album.
I got it.
If anybody who knows me well enough, well, you can see him over my corner, over my shoulder here. So yeah, of course, I'm going to talk about Wasp and their 2009 album Babylon. In the meantime, their Blackie would suffer a little bit of a leg injury, which would take him off the shelf for quite a while. But then 2015, he roars back with Golgotha. And, you know, you want to talk about albums that you want to talk about favorite albums after a long gap. Golgotha would definitely be at the top of my list because I played that to death. And I still get shivers up my spine when I listen to the Golgotha album and certain, or the Golgotha title song and other songs on that album. So I don't need to speak any more about those albums. Y'all want to, if you want to hear more about me and Wasp, just watch my Wasp Wednesday. Thank you, Steve Deluxe. I appreciate that. Everybody knows I'm a big Wasp fan. So
Yes.
that's, I don't need to talk any more about that. And so there you go.
So Henry, back to Gowan, he thought Strange Animal played on one of the Kids in the Hall episodes. It may have. Excuse me, I don't know. But that's really cool that, I mean, I don't know how much impact Kids in the Hall had in the United States. So that's cool that you know all this. And of course, yes, thanks Steve Deluxe for watching. And Ashley, Spotify library is growing by the second. I hope you like my final pick when we get to it. But before we get to it, is Metal Roger with his number one pick.
I'm kind of disappointed in myself that I didn't think of Wasp myself, because I am a big Wasp fan.
But then we double up, and it's better that we get two unique picks, so there's more for people to listen to.
Exactly, like Alice in Chains.
Oh, yeah!
But that's not his pick, though, right?
That is my pick.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
What devil? The devil put dinosaurs here. Is that your pick?
No,
No.
Black gives way.
Oh, yes. That's a great title track. Oh my god, gives me chills, man.
Yeah, that title track. That don't even get me started on that. I kind of almost cried the first time I heard that.
Elton John plays on this album too.
Does he?
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken, Elton John plays on the album Black Gives Way to Blue.
Oh wait, he doesn't he do the piano version?
Yeah, I have the downloaded bonus tracks from iTunes, so you might be right. Yeah.
I
like William Duvall as a lead singer too. And he brings in rhythm guitar as an additional element to Alice in Chains. I really respect what they've done with William on lead vocals. Big time.
And that brings up my next point, guitars. Like that Check My Brain riff.
Oh,
that must. I can't talk because of how good that riff is. That's like one of my favorite riffs of all time. I think I listened to that song for like months straight, probably about 5 times a day. Like that riff was so bad.
So good. It's so good.
And Last of My Kind, it helped Skinny Roger get some personal records lifting. Now I'm Thick Roger, I guess.
Thick Roger. That's what the ladies call him. All right.
The imagery today, folks. The imagery.
And he's not talking about my, down there. He's talking about my intelligence.
Well, folks, before we get to my number one pick, I have a little surprise for you tonight.
Oh, boy.
All the way from the other side of the planet. The one, the only, the legendary Harrison Kopp.
Evening, all.
What's going on, Harrison?
God.
Apologies about the lighting again.
Quite all right, my friend.
Well,
it makes it ominous, brother. It makes it ominous. Gives it that black metal feel.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt your pick there, Mike.
Oh no, that's perfect timing. It helps build the suspense. I don't know if you caught the gist of this, but at the beginning of the show, I decided to break the rules by doing a tie for my number 5 pick, and I dedicated that to you in honor of your rule-breaking habits. And Harrison, yes, Henry is in the house. The lighting is indeed metal, like on an album cover. There we go. Harrison,
All
do you happen to have any long gap album favorites?
Yeah, I quickly cobbled together a list of things from my collection. But first, I'm going to show something that harkens back to Year of the Priest Painkiller. This is the CD single for A Touch of Evil.
Oh,
And I
Ooh.
bring this up because the panel actually learned that the album had singles live, I believe, as they were doing it.
look at that.
Very
I remember
nice.
them saying at one point, Painkiller had no singles. And I'm like, hang on, wait a minute. What's this that I've got here then? All right.
And I have the
So-
12-inch single for the title track Painkiller.
Yeah. So this has the single edit of A Touch of Evil, which you got on the video.
Yeah,
Somebody's
that's right.
taken an axe to bits of it.
I remember that distinctly.
Then you get the hammer and the anvil, and then you get the Priest live version of You Got Another Thing Coming. So it's not the most exciting single, but it's still nice to have.
Would that be the edited You Got Another Thing Coming without all of the crowd interaction, or would it be the full?
753.
That's
so
probably the
think-
full-on
I
version.
think
Yeah.
the
Full-on
full
version.
thing.
Wow. That's cool, Harrison. I don't think I've ever seen that Touch of Evil single in the
I don't think I have either.
I just stumbled across it at a CD and record fair, and I was like, "Oh, I'll take that."
Funny enough, Ashley, I mentioned this in my blurb that I wrote up today, and also I think there's a 13-year gap between Endless Wire and the following album, Who. And Henry, funny, he was listening to Painkiller this afternoon after finishing the latest Year of the Priest episode. We'll plug that at the end of this.
Thank you, Henry.
We'll definitely plug Year of the Priest at the end of this.
All right, so I'll just quickly run through my list.
Yeah.
Bruce Dickinson, The Mandrake Project.
Oh, brilliant! Yes.
This is you're supposed to be able to see the 3D cover, but you can't really.
You can't
Do the
really
light.
know.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Pretty
good pick. That's 19 years, right?
Something like that, yeah. One of the songs is that old, I too think.
Mhm.
I love hearing Eternity Has Failed again. I listened to the Book of
Yes.
Souls again yesterday. Face in the Mirror, Rain on the Graves, Open Doors to Hell, they're all cracking songs.
Yep.
So yeah, definitely a good solo album. This is in no particular order. ELO's first reunion album, Zoom.
Nice.
Not the best album in terms of critical reception, but it's a little light on the rockers, but it's still a good ELO album. Then this one doesn't. I don't think this one counts because they've probably had like live albums out since then. But the Rolling Stones, Hackney Diamonds.
Oh yes, of course.
One of the things I really like about this album is that there's songs for every type of Rolling Stones fans, whether you're the fan of the blues, the fan of the rock, a bit of in between, slightly more funkier stuff. There's something for everyone on this album. It's a great album, and I'm glad we have it. I'm glad they put out one more album.
And that's
And
the
this
version you
is-
got with the live disc. That's
Yeah, I didn't bite on the any of the original issues of the album because there was no bonus live material, and then this came along, and I'm just like, oh, exactly what I wanted.
Yeah, agreed.
All right. So another solo album, Tony Martin, Thorns.
Oh, another good pick, especially timely with today's release of Anno Domine.
Yep. Two of my picks being solo albums make sense because solo artists would, especially ones like Tony Martin, who would like sing in a band, and then they, when there's a break, they'd do a solo album. So
Right, like in Bruce Dickinson's case.
picks. And so my last one is Celebration Day.
Oh, that's live. Of course, Harrison's going to break the rules. Now that's nice. That is the 4-disc version, is it not?
3.
Oh, I have.
Yeah.
Mine might be 4 discs. I think mine comes
Yeah,
with a
there's-
DVD and a Blu-ray.
Yeah, mine's actually in a CD case, not a CD-sized case, not a DVD-sized case. Yeah,
Mine
I've
is
just got
also as well.
DVD and 2 CDs. So that'll just be my list real quick then.
Excellent. Well, let's go on with my number 1 then. I will tell you right away. This is a new release. This is a Japanese import. This is my number 1 album of 2023. So for those of you who remember what I picked in 2023, this was my number 1 album. And the reason I picked this, the reason I bought this in the first place was because it came with an extremely strong endorsement from Tim's Vinyl Confessions. They did a 4-way panel with Jax Russell, I believe Matt Phillips, I can't remember who else was in there, but they all praised the latest album by Extreme called Six. And this, for the record, is a 15-year gap from 2008 album Saudade do Rock, which is a great album as well. I played this album. The reason I picked this as my number one is simply because I played it so frequently this week and kept coming back to it because, you know, Rise, the opening track, Rise, it went freaking viral last year for the guitar solo. People were saying Nuno Betancourt's guitar solo is the best guitar solo in a decade. And it has this riff. It was really simple and it banged. And there's a great video of Nuno Betancourt playing that guitar solo live on a cruise ship, you know, one of those rock cruises. And I love watching his face as he's playing this really intricate thing with a lot of, you know, finger hammering. And I love guitar face. You know what I'm talking about when I say that? I love guitar face. Right. Klauser knows what I mean. And Nuno does great guitar face in that cruise video. I strongly recommend you check it out on YouTube. But it's not just Rise. This album is not just Rise. A lot of these bands that I love from this era that come back after a long period of time, they come out with a banging introduction song, and then the rest of the album just kind of doesn't light it up for me. This one does. It's pretty much every song. I would single out Hashtag Rebel, Banshee, Small Town Beautiful, The Mask, Thicker Than Blood, X Out, Beautiful Girls, and Here's to the Losers as standout tracks. The bonus... I hear a car like squealing, which is really
That
weird.
didn't sound like a car.
Did you guys hear that?
I heard that. Yeah.
It's like, this is the countryside. Where's
By
that?
the whippoorwill.
By the whippoorwill. The bonus track on this is just a single edit of Rise, which is disappointing but whatever. It's the OCD. Also, anytime Amazon has a Japanese import for sale, I may as well grab it because the convenience of getting it from Amazon. Anyway, I love Extreme. This is the same lineup that's on Saudade de Rock, which is Nuno Betancourt, Pat Badger, Gary Cherone, and I don't know how to pronounce Kevin Figiardo, might be the way you pronounce the drummer's name. It's a brilliant album. Extreme are one of those bands that were never given the credit they were due simply because of the hit ballad, you know. The hit ballad was The Curse as well as the Gift. And anybody who actually bought this Extreme 2 album knew that there was a lot of really impressive songwriting, playing, diversity all over that album. They pushed it up another notch into the progressive category when they did a 3-sided follow-up called 3 Sides to Every Story. And then they went like rock funk on the next album, Waiting for the Punchline. You know, this band, they're unstoppable. I think that Gary Cherone kind of gets a bad rap because he sang on possibly the worst Van Halen album. And that's, again, too bad. It's not like he had control over that Van Halen album. Eddie Van Halen that was his vision, that album, whether misguided or not. That is Eddie Van Halen's doing. And Gary was singing the way, presumably, Eddie wanted him to sing. This isn't that like that. This isn't a Van Halen 3 kind of singing. This is much more the Gary Cherone that we know and love from Extreme. So that's why Extreme 6 is my number one pick. And we'll just do a quick round of runners-up. Talked about these guys last week on Grant's Rock Warehouse. Skid Row, Thick Skin. This came out in 2003 after their 1995 album, Subhuman Race, an 8-year gap. I'm a big booster for this. This is with Johnny Solinger on lead vocals and Phil Verone on drums. Crappy album artwork. Great album. My runner-up. We already talked about some of the other ones. The Who, Chinese Democracy, Black Sabbath. A lot of my runners-up were mentioned already. That's the only one that really hasn't. And I'll quickly address some comments. Australian glam rock band Taste at a 30-year gap. That's the longest one we've heard so far. With the release of Rock is Dead, the original lineup of Taste featured a young Virgil Donati on drums. Henry, I started to listen to Extreme because of the show. Yes, Henry, thank you. I was so disappointed that I couldn't see them on their recent Australian tour. Also, just occurred to me the Yardbirds had a very long gap between albums when they did a reunion in the 90s. Okay, That's it for me. Johnny, runners up.
All right, I'm going to go through these really, really quickly. This was about a 10 or 12 year gap. Band called Becoming the Archetype. This is an album called Children of the Great Extinction. Love this album. Very techno, groove, death, grind, opethy kind of sound. Very good stuff. Good guys to hang out with too. Raven, about an 8-year gap between One for All and Walk Through Fire. Good albums. Are they as good as maybe the early stuff? Maybe not, but it's still Raven. It's still great. Sure, I could have picked Invincible Shield, but I figure I've been talking enough about that. How about Boston?
Oh, yes.
That was about a 9-year gap.
I think. I thought 6.
Something.
Either way,
78 to 87 or 88 or whatever.
What a weird cover, John. I've never seen it without that's no artwork.
Well.
Oh my goodness! I've never seen it like that, John.
This is my original cassette that I bought too back in the.
That's cool. I've never seen that, John.
Yeah,
that's cool. I wonder if Derling is here. I'm going to tell Derling to check that out.
Sure, I could have picked this.
Aha!
And there was definitely no way on God's green earth I was going to pick this.
What? Somebody want to tell me what the hell that is?
Was The Endless River by Pink Floyd, which is an instrumental collection of outtakes from around the time of the Division Bell.
The Division Bell, which that was what, 94, 93?
94, the year I started at the record store.
So, and this came out in 2014.
So that's a 30-year gap. No, 20.
Here, I'll make everyone cringe.
But yeah.
I don't like Pink Floyd.
That's fine. It took me a long time, Roger. It took me a long time.
I'm only a Dark Side of the Moon,
has
The
stories
Wall,
about
and
I do.
Wish You Were Here kind of guy. So, but anyway, there you go. I definitely wasn't going to pick it, but I had to at least show it. So
great. Thank you for doing that, actually. Metal Roger.
And one quick one.
Oh, these guys they broke up. Yeah.
And they're coming out with a new album, and that's been more than 10 years, I think. So,
and they also, I was playing BCC right here on the front porch yesterday. I played 3 songs, Song for Yesterday, Black Country, and One Last Soul. Henry likes all the Pink Floyd. Yeah, that's
about right.
I think all Pink Floyd's restaurant music.
And you might be right about that.
Well, you need to listen to one of these days.
You need to listen to a few, like a good greatest hits, I think would do it for you. Metal Roger, do you have any runners up?
Yeah, I have one. At the Gates. They're a Swedish death metal band who are credited to created metalcore. They had, I think, let me do my math. Almost a 20-year gap in between albums.
That's a long one. Good.
They released Slaughter of the Soul in 1995 and then released At War with Reality in 2014. They pulled and refused. If anyone knows who they are.
Yes, I'm aware of that. Yes. All right. Harrison, do you have any runners up? How about some Wolfsbane, maybe?
Not exactly, but yeah, I was just going to bring up that Wolfsbane had a reunion for a couple of albums in the late 2010s.
Quiet Riot had a 5-year gap between their self-titled 1988 with Shortino and the reunion album Terrified in 1993. And I think there was probably another 5-year gap or longer later on in their career. Yeah, I think we covered it. I think we covered the best of the best, and what we didn't cover was covered in the comments. Now, as you know, I like to go around and talk about what everybody's got going on. Johnny Klauser just did this week on his Music Corner, Judas Priest, Invincible Shield, and I back you on that. I know you've got still a few more episodes to do. Tell us what's going on in your Music Corner of the world.
Right. So this weekend, by special request, which there's going to be somebody on this panel who will also be on that show, but we're gonna record a show on Live Meltdown So that's going to be
Did you hear Harrison make his like?
No, that was my contented sound.
Yeah,
Ooh.
yeah.
I like Live Meltdown.
Yeah, I know.
And then we're going to do a couple other things, and then that's going to wrap up the Year of the Priest series. So that has just been a long, fun series going through the entire catalog with a couple of live albums and to boot. Guys like Mike and Roger and Chase and Peter Jones and Peter Kerr and Jack Toledano and Ernesto Ramos and Chase Troutwing. Who am I missing? David Cretan. And of course, I was trying to get through all the guests first. Joe B. Of course, Roger was on there. Davey Cretan was just on with us on that. And of course, John the Music Nut. All of those guys have just been the absolute stars of the program. I cannot take credit for that. So I just wanted to thank them all for that. But anyway, that's what's going on in my music corner of the world.
What about you, Matt? What about? I was really Canadian there. What about you, Roger? Are you going to be involved in any of the final Year of the Priest episodes?
Yeah, I'm in the final
the grand finale, which I don't want to let too much of the cat out of the bag. So,
and I don't know too much of the cat because I wasn't reading the email chains really. I just said I'll do it.
And yes, thank you, Ashley. Thank you for watching your very first Grab a Stack episode. I really appreciate that. Give us a like. Give us
absolutely. Ashley.
Look at this. I can't even speak anymore. It's a late show for me tonight. Usually I do these 3 o'clock on a Friday, but I'm glad to do this just to get John and Roger and Harrison all together for the very first time. Harrison did some really cool Lego artwork for Rob Daniels at Visions and Sound this week, who did a Mad Max episode. Gosh, it might even be last week. I'm losing track of time, but it featured Mad Max's Interceptor and some cool minifigs. Harrison, can you tell us anything about anything you might have cooking?
Just doing more Lego art to keep myself sane. I don't really have anything that's going to go public in the pipeline soonish.
Check out that Visions and Sound art on Facebook. Rob Daniels radio show if you do want to see what Harrison has been up to. It's quite.
Speaking of art, can I say something?
Yeah.
I never in my fucking life thought my name would be on a bloody t-shirt.
John, can you show the t-shirt to Harrison?
Let's make sure I don't do it upside down.
Yeah. First time we hung it upside down. There we go. There's the official Metal Roger Lego art by Harrison. You can get these.
By the way, yes, Roger, that is a knife.
Yes. Sorry, I said I was going to do this. Okay, before we sign off tonight, we are going to
no. I'm going to mute myself so I don't have to watch this.
You shouldn't have submitted this video if you had a problem with it. Before we sign off tonight, Metal Roger submitted a question. So for the first time in like 5 months, I'd like to present to you a little thing that we call Ask Harrison.
Just a quick question, Harrison. There's a famous saying that is, "That's not a knife. This is a knife." Harrison, hold on. Is this a knife?
I don't know why he had to ask that question. It's quite obviously a knife, I would say, wouldn't you?
Yep. That is indeed a knife.
That is, there you go. Roger, we now know the answer. It is indeed a knife.
You know what's funny? I actually thought he put the knife in because of this.
Well, that's cool too. I don't know if we've ever noticed that before on camera, but I mean, it certainly fits.
And this is what happens when you tell me to do something.
This is true. And yes, that was a very horrible Crocodile Dundee, wasn't it? Yes, Ashley, Harrison is also from Australia. Gentlemen, I have one show lined up still to go this summer. I'm not sure what's going to follow. I know Jex and I are planning to do some of the 3 o'clock in the afternoon Friday shows, but next week we're back to 7 o'clock with a very special guest. He was in the comments earlier tonight, Mr. Pete Jones, and we are doing And I have no idea how I'm going to do this, guys. We are doing the Battle of 1984. We are doing Defenders of the Faith, Judas Priest versus Iron Maiden, Power Slave. How do I do this, guys? I have no idea. I have to spend the next week now listening to these two albums and figuring out how to officiate this battle between two amazing albums that are 40 years old.
It's easy. Power Slave is the answer.
And Ashley's in South Australia. There we go. So tune in next week to Grab a Stack of Rock with my very special guest, Pete Jones. This might actually be his last show because he said he was pretty much taking a break from doing shows until he's done all of his commitments. And I think I might be his last commitment.
No, he's committed to doing the Year of the Priest finale with us.
Okay, so I do not have the last Pete Jones show, but it is one of the last Pete Jones shows.
His will be that. I mean, every bit of that's going to be like really small stuff. So it's
right.
Yours will probably be like the last main show.
Right. We're doing a full hour on these two albums. So tune in next week for that Battle of the Titans. It's a serious Battle of the Titans. Thank you guys for spending your Friday night, or in Harrison's case, Saturday morning with me. I always like to go out on a song. And of course, because Harrison's here, we have to play this particular song. This is one that you guys probably haven't heard before. There's a little tune called Happy Birthday to the Mad Metal Man.
It's still a couple months till my birthday.
It's still a couple months. But I feel like celebrating your appearance here tonight with this.
But it was Blaze's belated birthday.
Yes.
Yes, indeed. This week, yes. 61 years old, Blaze Bailey, kicking ass and rocking. Thank you, guys. I will talk to you all very soon. See you next week for another fascinating episode of Grab a Stack of Rock. This is T-Bone Erickson with Happy Birthday.
Eat your heart out, Jax.
From a land down under comes a burning flame, like a crack of thunder when you hear his name. So contrary, borderline insane, you can't look away. This is how we say, happy birthday to the mad metal man, to the mad metal man. Heavy metal coursing through his veins, but he won't settle for the same old